Welcome back to the Add a Zero Challenge, episode 21, where we take a $10,000 live bankroll, run it up to $100,000 playing live cash games. Now we're on a 4-game winning streak here. I think we can carry over the momentum into 5 in a row. It's been about a month since I've played this game, so looking forward to going over the hands with all of you today. Let's get at it. All right, first hand of the session, we look down at Jack 10 of diamonds. Raise it up to 15. Now we're going to get a call here eventually in the small blind and the big blind. Small blind is a player that we've played with a decent amount, probably 7 or 8 sessions so far, and has played this game often. 3 players in there, $45 in the middle. Flop is 9, 9, 10. Now a very interesting flop, right? We're 3 ways. We like our hand with Jack 10, but it's a bit of a tricky hand, and I think it depends on our opponents how we want to play this. Because if our opponents are check raise heavy, like if they're happy to check raise, I think we're going to get ourselves in a lot of problems. Of course, when they have a 9, we're in a lot of issues, and we might have to, put in a ton of money against a hand that has us nearly dead. But if our opponents are capable of doing this with flush draws and straight draws, they can really put a lot of pressure on us. So if it checks to us, I like betting against more passive opponents and very, very much small, like another $15 bet. And against more aggressive opponents, I like checking back and controlling the size of the pot. Check. So it does check to us, and we elect for a check. This opponent here in the small blind is a very aggressive player. Can definitely check raise. I think it was maybe the last session or 2 where he 3-bet the flop and then folded to our all-in, right? So like we have a bit of a dynamic going on, which is pretty interesting. I think he's quite tricky. Turn, it's a bet of 20. And we call. Now, river is very controversial. I don't think I love it now. Our opponent checks, and we've got a decision to make. We've got a full house, right? What do we beat by? Only a 9. I think it's pretty unlikely our opponent has a 9. However, I do think our opponent can have a 10, right? The same hand as us. And I think they can go for a really crazy play here, especially with the way we played our hand, and go for a big check raise. So I do want to bet this in hindsight now. I think the likelihood our opponent has 8s, 7s, 6s, 4s, 3s, 2s, and all of those combos, like, was that 8, 7, 6s, 4s, 3s, 2s, 7 times 6, 42 combos of pairs, right? That's a lot of hands we can get value from. Potentially an ace-5 could bet the turn, although I wouldn't think it's a great play, but it's possible it could bet here. So I think there's just enough hands we can get some value from here and go for a small bet. Try and get a crying call out of ace-high. Again, like, I don't think ace-high bets the turn. My main concern here is that my opponent's being tricky and is going to go for like a check massive raise and force us to call for a chop or like have the 9. But I check back and I think it's too tight. Even with a read and a suspicion, I think it's too tight. So I check back, and we don't make enough money in this pot, I think.
I check. I have a 10.
Chat does not like it. There was a discussion. I mean, people were sort of highlighting fear. I think generally, usually what happens in these spots is most of these decisions are not, dictated by like, oh man, I can't cope with losing $500. It's how are we going to make money in this pot? And so it doesn't really matter if it's for $5, if it's for $500, or if it's for $5,000. At the end of the day, you're just trying to make the decision that makes the most money. This one I think is too passive, but it's not like these decisions aren't motivated by how big the pot is. They're motivated by, do you think they make money? Anyways, moving on. Moving on to the next hand, we have aces. You love to see it. You do love to see the aces.
40.
So we're going to 3-bet here.
130.
Oh, excuse me. It's a 40 on the button and a straddle pot. We make it 130. 3-betting the small blind, which is kind of small, but given the stacks are not super deep here in a straddle pot, I think that makes sense. 3.3x. 4x would be the standard 3-bet if we were like 100 blinds or deeper out of position. But we make it 130. To our friend Justin in the big blind, who goes for the 4-bet here. Looks like 250. Could be 275. I'm not exactly sure, but pretty close. Might be 330 actually too. We decided to just call with aces anyways. I don't see any reason to go all in here if our opponent is bluffing. Allow them to bluff on the flop. There's going to be like 700 in the middle, and we just don't have that much money behind, so we're going to get their stack often. Post-flop, going all in pre, we're just going to fold out their bluffs, and I think there's going to be a decent amount of bluffs. So flop is king 10-8. We check. It's a tough spot for our opponent when they have queens and jacks here as to what to do on this flop.
All in.
And 650.
Aces.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, this is such a cooler. 3?
3 times. Aces, ace, king.
Aces, ace, king. Well, what are you going to do, Justin? What are you going to do? We're going to run it 3 times here. Now, people ask often in the spot, like, why do you run it 3 times? It doesn't make a difference. So the EV of this situation, running it 1, 2, or 3 times does not change, right? Like, you're still going to win the pot the mass majority of the time. That, 2 order is still going to come at the sort of same frequency. So yeah, there is effectively no difference. The pot is already going to be full rake. So it may seem like, oh man, you've got such a luck on it. Why don't you just run it like 1 time and scoop the whole pot? It's like, well, listen, 8% of the time, they're going to hit their 2 outs over 2 streets. And that's fine. Like when you run it 1 time, that can happen. When you run it 3 times, it can happen 1 out of 3. The EV doesn't change. So I just run it however many people want to run it. Especially on stream, people enjoy seeing cards. So I don't mind running it multiple times. First board good. Second board clean. Third board clean. We get the full double up there. Looks like about a 2K stack with 1K in buy-in, so off to a really good start in the session.
That guy just lost his rent. No, he's going to be fine, chat. He'll be okay. I just want to let you know. Justin's going to be fine. Just got back from Florida, had a nice vacation. He's going to be all right. He can afford plane tickets.
Next hand in the session, we're looking down at pocket kings.
20.
For my comedy routine, we raise it up to $20. In the hijack. Get action on the button. Action in the big blind. Action in the straddle. We're going to go 4 ways to the flop here. Or maybe an under the gun limp, I think makes actually more sense based on the sizing. And then we make it 20. So we're 4 ways. We flop top set.
50.
We're going to bet 50 into a pot of 80 here. Now, obviously we have 3 of the really good cards, the 1 on the board and then 2 in our hand. So it's tough for our opponents to have a king. However, there is a lot of hands they can have that have a lot of draws here. So I don't want to mash the bet button and like make people consider folding, right? Like I don't want to go 80 and then they're like, oh man, do I want to fold my, jack high flush draw or something? $50 should keep all those hands involved and allow them an opportunity to raise sometimes. So I like the sizing. We get a call from seat 7, our Ukrainian friend. We played with a bunch in this game. Turn is the Queen of Hearts. Now, this is a difficult spot for us. The flush came in with kings. We also are sort of blocking the strong hands from our opponents. However, it's a very strong hand, right? Like, we have a set. So, I don't know what I do here. Today, I think I'm going to probably lean towards check with kings, but I would bet with 8s and I would bet with 9s. I don't fault myself if I do bet, but it's just like, man, it's really hard for our opponent to have much good here. Jack 10 even just made a straight, dude. I'm checking this turn, I think.
125.
We bet 125. We bet 125. It's not a fun spot. Quick call from our opponent. Just a call is good, right? Like, that's a nice thing to see. And river is a brick. Interesting. Do we go for the value bet or not?
250.
We bet 250. This is a pretty value sizing, right? It's not very big. Trying to get a call from something worse. The problem is here, what can our opponent have that's worse, right? We have to hope that they have an 8-9 that didn't check raise the flop, or queen 9, or queen 8. It's possible they could have a set as well if they decide to slow play 8s or 9s on the flop, but not super likely. And then the few combos of king X, like king jack, the one remaining king jack suited, right? King 10 suited. It's not a lot of hands. We do have top set. I like the sizing anyways. If we're going to go for it, it's quite thin. I think the sizing is good. I think I would probably check the turn, though, and then bet the river. Either way.
Set.
Our opponent calls and has a speed, I think. I forget. What it was. I don't know if it's a straight or a flush. Straight, Jack 10. So that's the thing, like, you know, we value under ourselves there with top set. Is it too thin? I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments, whether you would check the turn or if you would check the river. I think I would go bet, check, bet. If I could go back in time. I think I have the coolest piece of poker software you've ever seen today. It is called Hybrid Poker. Brand new piece of poker learning software where you test your score against myself, against Daniel Negreanu, against Bill Perkins, and see how you score against the three of us, as well as other poker players as well. But Hybrid Poker learns about you, the player, which is, this is really cool. As Hybrid Poker gets to know you, it's going to tell you what to work on. There's a link to the IQ test down below. Try it for free. I think you'll like it. So try it out. Next hand, we get a raise to 30. Early-ish position.
Call.
We have jacks. We're going to call 30. This is something I do. Obviously, it's a hand we're going to 3-bet often. But I like calling when the stack's set up great for calling, right? Like when you have a squeeze stack behind that could go all in or can put most of their stack in, that's already always good. And then also, if we 3-bet and they have a stack where they 4-bet shove and it makes our jacks like really hate our life, then sometimes I sneak in the sort of just flat call with the jacks. So we do call with jacks. And we get a raise to 110. Now, how we play this really depends on how deep we are. If we're quite short, then I think we go all in for sure. If we're quite deep, we can overcall this and play in position
Me and the
post-flop.
winner again?
Again.
All right.
Against Mike, who was just down to the World Series of Poker, actually. Made a deep run in 600, I think it was. Something like that. Deuce 5-8. Beautiful flop. Very dry. We're super happy with our hand. It, again, depends on our stack depth as to whether we raise here on the flop. It looks like we have about 1,100. So I would say we're probably a bit too deep to want to raise against this squeeze range. So I think I'm just going to call here. But it's a bit of a tough spot, I would say.
Call.
We do call. And turn is the 7 of spades. We have the jack of spades.
175.
But of 175. I don't think we have much of a choice here. Again, representing aces, kings, queens. Fair enough. But also we have jacks with the jack of spades. We have the overpair and the spade. I think we have another call, and then we have a decision on the river, and probably a fold. Like even on bricks, but it really depends.
Call.
Like if the river comes to 3 of diamonds here and they shove all in, what do we do?
It's getting spicy.
I lean towards fold.
It's getting big.
$250 is, yeah, see, I feel my past pain here. Because $250 is a very small bet size. It's giving us an incredible price with the overpair, right? Man, that is really tough. Like, there's a lot of money in the middle. We need to have the best hand with an overpair. With the 4 flush bricking, right? Like, the ace of spades could just bet on the turn. I don't know. The solver's going to say to call here based on the price. Against the human being, I don't know enough about Mike at this point. I think to fold. I kind of hate it. I hate the spot.
Oh, man.
Like, I want to fold
I
now,
have an
but
overpair.
I think I'm biased.
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. It's a very small size as well. 175, it's 350, 450, 500 plus pre-flop. 720 in there, and it's 250, and I have an overpair. With the spade as well. That's the thing. Dude. Okay, I call. Jacks. Jacks, yeah. Nice.
Shows down a bigger pair. It's aces with the ace of spades. I don't know, man. I don't know. They always have it. Moving on.
So little boy.
Next hand, we look down at the 9-8 of spades. Just to re-up on that last hand, by the way, it's like it's a little complicated with the stream because some of the people you guys have seen that we play with really want to get us and bluff us on the stream, right? Like there's pretty much almost everyone I've played with that's there to play on the stream wants to get a big bluff through, and you just don't know when that's happening, right? So like, yes, you want a hero fold in live poker in general, but with the stream, it adds an interesting dynamic to where I don't think you can do it too much, right? Or else you're going to get exploited pretty bad. So, anyways, moving on. 9-8 suit.
20 call.
Yeah.
Make sure your hair's okay.
How deep are we at seat 8?
You got that's all you got.
Okay. All right. I call.
Well, you lost side. Okay, you missed that one.
So I think this is a raise from seat
And that was a
7, call from seat 8.
Always forget to look at this guy 'cause
We call and the button calls. I think that's what's going on here.
Exactly.
We're 5 ways to flop with 9-8 of spades. We have a pair and a spade draw. Backdoor spade draw, excuse me.
Here.
You gotta test the screen. You probably have the volume on.
Bet at 40 and a call. We're going to overcall here with 180 in the middle. We're getting 4.5 to 1. Middle pair and some backdoors. You know, we're trying to make 2 pairs. We're trying to make flushes here, basically. We have made trips. Let's go on the river. Beautiful stuff.
75.
Bet 75.
What do you
Chip
got?
eights.
How good?
That good?
How good?
And playing against our friend of the stream. I think this is the friend of the stream that plays a home game with us usually on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. He finds the
6 minutes.
folds. Oh, it was our Ukrainian friend. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Cheers, man.
Good game.
Good game.
I don't think
Looking down at the kings.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I don't think Batman would ever let that happen.
Straddle?
Right?
But that was like
55.
We're gonna make it 55 in the straddle pot.
Do we got the table share
And
or
we
what?
are going
What's the
to a
deal?
flop, I think 3 ways.
Someone hit it?
no, they definitely did not hit it.
Okay.
King 7-4 dry. We flop top set. We're out of position to 2 players, I think, here.
All right. Okay. That's a fair call. Yeah.
So checks around 3 ways. I like this check with top set. It's really hard for our opponents to have anything. There's almost no draws. I mean, we're all making a joke at the table at the time. It's like quite difficult to sell a bluff. You know, it's not serious. So people are going to believe me. And that's not what I want when I have top set. Let them catch up a bit. Turn is the absolute money card. It's the perfect card in the deck. So likely our opponents just picked up an ace and we're going to get 2 nice streets of value. Now the question is, if we're up against bettors, do we go for the check raise to try and get tons of money? Or do we just bet ourselves? And it really depends on our opponents. I forget the dynamic of this day.
120.
We go for a bet of 120 here. It looks like we're just going to get 2 solid streets of value is the plan.
Holy shit. Wow, man. Congrats.
Seat 9. Thanks for a second. And calls. We're going to a river with the beautiful set of kings. River's a brick.
260.
We bet 260.
260.
This is not a bad beat. No,
Grabbing for the chips pretty quickly as well. I feel like we're getting the call here. It looks like a call to me.
Not exactly the same amount.
Ooh, it's not good when the cards are flipped over because then they get to hero fold.
I'm happy it's a donation here.
Let's go. We get the call. Let's go.
Oh, you called. Not bad. All right, open up.
Kings.
Is that a king?
Thanks.
You got a box? Oh, yeah.
And that is going to be the end of the session. It's a 5-day winning streak. It's a 5-day winning streak. Don't call it a comeback. $5,781 to start the day. We made a $245 profit, taking us over $6,000 in the bankroll. Pretty nice comeback. pretty solid 5 sessions in a row. I think we have one more video in the tank, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you're new wherever you're watching this, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or Hideout, or somewhere else. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support, and that's it for today. Until next time, we'll see you later. Goodbye.